Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.
Why, hello, and welcome to My Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. A proud part of the Bar Cart Co-op, with other great shows like Bourbon Turntable, where they blend the love of whiskey with the love of music, Distillers Talk, and I believe Alan just keeps adding shows.
Yeah,
One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, and he's got another one where if you have ghosts, you have everything, which is actually kind of interesting. If it's not necessarily distilling related, but just a fun kind of ghost related podcast. But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about craft whiskey, and we're here with Mike Root this evening from Copper Sky Distillery. So thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate the sample. I already finished the first one, so like I said, I am going to have a problem because it is really tasty. Before we go any further, Mike, what do we usually tell everyone in the audience? I'm going to switch it. I'm going to do this one because it makes more sense.
All right. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification to find out when new episodes are coming out, which is usually Monday nights, but we got some variations coming out here. Don't forget to interact with the nice people in the chat and on live shows, or leave a comment down below.
That works for me. And thank you everyone in the chat for showing up early. We know we appreciate it. Thank you for that. And Mike, you have a really interesting past, even if you don't get beyond the web page front thing, which obviously we do when we get into it. But I mean, just starting a company at 24 and the history that you have, I have to ask, where, and this is a weird question, but where did your thought for starting a distillery come from? Like, was there a whiskey or a drink or a spirit a long time ago that you always loved and maybe wanted to tweak, or did that kind of pop up along the path? Just because you have a person's lifetime compacted into into yours. So, I mean, you just keep adding to it. We don't want that to stop. But, I mean, was that something that happened a long time ago, or was that something that kind of grew as things went along?
Yeah, I'd say it definitely grew as things went along. With my government work, being in the military, I travel the world a lot. So I got to, try food and drinks all over. But being a Southern boy, I've always kind of leaned back into sweeter whiskeys and bourbons. I fancy myself an actual Weller drinker. A lot of people like to buy them and, put them in the back of their pictures. But that and Blanton's, I go through that stuff like water because I think they're great for the palate. They keep it pretty balanced where it's not going to blow your palate out. So I've always been a fan of wheated bourbons specifically. And so when I wanted to start my next company, I really wanted to build a brand, not just a company. And so I was like, well, I want to merge this passion for whiskey and wanting to create a new brand. And that's where the distillery emerged. And our first couple releases were wheated bourbons because, in Colorado, basically east of or west of the Mason-Dixon line, you're not finding Blanton's or Weller's or any of the old Southern stuff. And so I wanted to create something and blend something that was, if not comparable, maybe a little bit better for the people out here in the West Coast and readily available. Our wheated bourbon took off and sold out so quick, we've had to kind of pause that so we can catch up with aging. And so now we do a wheated whiskey, but we have wheated bourbon that's aging. Honestly, it sold out so fast we couldn't keep up with demand. And so instead of just pulling the wheated line, we introduced a wheated whiskey in its place.
That's a good placeholder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the wheated whiskey has done much better than I ever imagined. I don't know if you follow our social media, but like a month ago, it just won not only Whiskey of the Year, but Spirit of the Year in an international competition out in California. And that was just mind-blowing to me to win Spirit of the Year. I mean, you're beating out rums and vodkas and gins and all the other whiskeys. That was a really cool envelope to open at the distillery.
Do they at least give you an award for that as well too, to hang up at the distillery?
Yeah, so we get plaques and medals and awards and stuff. So yeah, and we're gonna do some social media marketing and advertising with that. I'm not real big on stickers on the bottle. I mean, I think it's whiskey. I mean, I can slide and show you all my Copper Sky stuff right here, but I just think it should be clean and easy, and you can see our walls or our social media for the awards. But I'm not going to put a bunch of stickers on there and try to trick you into buying our whiskey.
Yeah. Or get stuck having to pay for stickers and hang tags, just to advertise the competition itself.
Sorry,
so all right,
fun at a couple competitions in the past.
More than a couple. So all right, if you want to abbreviate it or whatever, it's totally fine. But so your history prior to whiskey, prior to getting into it, it's really interesting. And you can give us the abbreviated version or a long version or whatever you want to give us. But it's a pretty cool history.
I'll try to do it in between, and then we'll leave it open to questions if people want to.
Right.
If you guys want to dig deeper. So yeah, got out of college, joined the Air Force, and then basically simultaneously started my first company when I was 24. Before Uber and Lyft was a thing, we started a company. It was a safe ride program for all the college kids at our old college. Sold that off, stayed in the military, did 10 years, and then have since not only started Copper Sky, but I own a brokerage, a consulting firm, an asset company out of Texas, and then 2 nonprofits. One of them is like a family nonprofit where we, help homeless veterans, breast cancer survivors. My mom's a breast cancer survivor. She's still going through radiation. So we lean really into that. We've done a breast cancer bottle to raise money. And then, there's a couple other companies that are on the horizon because, I've just got nothing but free time. And I got a kid on the way in a month. So, I don't know what's – me and the Sandman are really good friends.
that is busy. That's what I meant. There's a lot that you've compacted, and like you said, that's like an abridged version.
Yeah. I didn't even talk about any, like all my education. I got 4 college degrees, and I'm working on my PhD right now amidst all the other things. So
do you sleep at all?
You know what? When I tell people my kind of background, they immediately assume I don't have any sleep and no family time. I get 8 hours every night, at least. Some nights I'll get 9. And then I always make time for friends and family. Like tonight, downstairs, I came upstairs to do the podcast. Downstairs, there's about 6 or 7 people down there. We're just watching the football game. So I snuck up to do the podcast, and I'll go back down there to hang out with them. But yeah, I make a point. I learned when I did government work to carve out time for things that matter. And I've got very good at time management, so I can still pursue the business passions and then also pursue personal passions and still make time for people that matter.
Well, that's a good focus. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
So you mentioned that you're a weeded whiskey fan, but what made you want to do the distillery, or was it just the wanting to create a weeded whiskey, or was it something else that made you say, I'm going to do a distillery?
I think it was mostly I wanted to start a distillery because I thought it would be really cool to start not only a brand, but something that I could pass on to family. So, in 2-3 generations, hopefully, my offspring are doing these and they're like, yeah, my grandfather or whatever, my great grandfather started Copper Sky, and now this is a family thing. I thought it'd be very interesting to start that, because a lot of the things, the bigger brands that we see now, that's already their story, right? Their story's already 4th+ generation. And it's rare that you get to see a brand start and succeed and live into the future generations. And that was a big motivation. I wanted my family, my future namesake, to have something they could be proud of, not just money. I mean, all the other companies I start they're pure business decisions, but Copper Sky is an actual, like, it's a passion project.
Are you keeping any bottles back in secured storage for? Okay.
Always. I learned so. When the first probably 6 months, I was only keeping a couple bottles because obviously we needed to sell. I mean, even now at most we keep a case. If there's something that's super rare that we do, we might keep 2 cases. But I mean, even really, we don't keep a lot. At most, we'll keep a case of something, which is just 6 bottles to last. I don't know, until we can dig them up. But yeah, we have a locked archive that's at the distillery, and then I have my own private stash here of. There's a couple things that I've enjoyed more than others, or that they mean, like my mom's breast cancer bottle. They mean a little something, so I kept a couple extra to put in my private home stash. But yeah, we try to create that archive early so that we can dip back into it and share memories.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you? I know you talked about some upcoming things that you've got going, or maybe a couple more businesses, but do you want the distillery to lead to another endeavor?
Not in and of itself. It has subsequently, like the brokerage that I own, it's basically a whiskey barrel brokerage that helps small craft distilleries source whiskey when they don't have the buying power. So we leverage like all their buying power together. That spun off of Copper Sky because I had a lot of friends who were always asking for help, and so we did. But as Copper Sky grew, it made more sense to create a separate company. I hear him screaming downstairs, so something must have happened.
Something did happen because I saw my ticker go up on fantasy.
Gary Judy, right above me too. Yeah, this is Jersey. But yeah, I wanted the brokerage to kind of spawn off on itself so that it could continue to help either new brands or emerging brands, but then not really drain from Copper Sky's resources. Because we just had to open, 2 weeks ago, we opened our brand new facility for Copper Sky. So, I mean, it's growing very fast. We got a great team in place. I'm all about teams. That's one reason why I can get 8 hours of sleep every night. When I start something, I build a team around it that believes in the same thing, and I trust them. So, like when I'm traveling all over the place, I don't lose sleep over what's going on at whatever company. I trust the people I've in place to run those companies to carry on my objectives.
That is a major thing. Just like it's kind of just having faith in the people you hired, and a lot of people now are. I don't want to say, well, they don't take the time, or that might not be the priority, but I mean, just being like you said, being able to, like, everyone that I know has a job to do, they're going to do it. If something goes wrong, I know they're already on top of what happened. I don't even, I don't want to say I don't have to be involved, but it's nice to have that type of job. I don't know. That job quality, because it's not there in a lot of places.
No, I mean, and
I've seen it go away from some places personally, and that's not great. So over time, you get like a respect for people who, I don't know, hold that dear. It makes a big difference.
I'd say, especially throughout COVID, there's been a lot of just natural turnover in job positions, whether it's the companies couldn't retain people or people just wanted to try something new because their business was closed down. So there's been a lot of changeover in the past 2 years. So, and we have not. I've had 2 people that have moved on. One was someone who just same thing. He wanted to try something different. So he's like, hey, I'm going to go try a different industry. Another was a summer intern. So, I mean, that was a natural, hey, we're going to be here for a few months. But everybody that the first 4 people that helped when I first hired them are still with me today. And now we're up to 14 employees for Copper Sky. And just, I mean, giving them that power lets them buy into the company. I mean, it's their company too. That's why I usually use, pronouns we. I don't say I a lot unless it's something that I'm trying to take responsibility for. It's generally we or our.
Colorado really, I mean, a few years ago, or a little more than a few years ago, you heard of Stranahan's. That was the one people talked about, or talk about, Breckenridge. But Colorado has really got this great distilling vibe and community going that reminds me of, going out there years ago and everything was beer. And now it really seems like all the distillers, it's like a really like a great community of distillers that, there's no, I mean, it's not in Kentucky either. There's no trash talking or anything, but it's like it seems like a big family of distillers out there. And you talk about that with the barrel, what you're doing with the barrel brokerage, that really adds to that too, where, I mean, it's about helping everybody else because the old saying, the rising tide raises all ships, but the community. I mean, to make a I don't know if there is a Colorado whiskey tour yet, but that seems like there is. Oh God, that seems like that would be 2 or 3 weeks in Colorado would be awesome.
Yeah, there is. So I guess another little notch on my resume. I'm also the vice president of the Distillers Guild out here for Colorado. And so we do have the Colorado Spirits Trail. So we don't, like Kentucky's got the Bourbon Trail. We call it the Spirits Trail because Colorado has, we have more distilleries than Kentucky, but it's a much bigger spread. So you got, gins and vodkas and whiskeys, and you have everything. So we do have that. But you're right. Our state is much more spread out. So yeah, most people when they fly in to do the map, they spend about a week or maybe 10 days just traveling all over and making it like they see the mountains, they see the whole state.
I just know we've talked about it in the past, is that being as like Texas has become a hot spot in the past, like say 10 years or so. We've talked about Colorado already like being that, and there's other people kind of giving it that respect. Not necessarily fully for climate and everything, but for a state in the region producing really quality whiskey at a lot of different distilleries. It's worth the trip. There's other states that have plenty of distilleries, but to get to the good ones, it's a few and far between trip. Where that's what we've always said, it's a really neat spot that's like emerging. If you're going on trip, that's definitely a place not to not think about stopping at.
Right.
But so go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to mention to people that we were sipping on Copper Sky light whiskey, finished in Blanton's barrels. So it's 17 years old and 69.1% alcohol. It, like many of the other light whiskeys we've had, is very good. I'm not going to get into tasting notes yet, but like we were talking about, if I was going to guess this beforehand without even knowing what it was, I would have been in the 45 to 52-ish range. Would have been my guess. Probably more like the 48, but still way under for what it is. It just has a nice warming quality, but it has a bit of honey flavor for me that I absolutely love. If you remember those candies from a kid, that's my favorite note off of this right now. Besides the bland and stuff, that's just like, sorry, our other hashtag is Fat Boy Tasting Notes. So some of them come back to that every now and then.
It always reminds us of food. So I'm just curious, do you have, if you could tell yourself something, like if you go back 5 years ago and tell yourself something about the distillery, there's something that you would do to maybe steer yourself in another direction, or just a whisper?
I definitely wouldn't change directions because we have a great community around us, and I think we're on the right trajectory. I probably would have said, get more, like start with more whiskey sooner. But I mean, when you start, you're like, I don't know how this is going to be. I don't want to go tank down. But now, like, we're definitely always fighting the current, and it's a good current because it's demand, right? I mean, we're in 5 states, and next week we launch our new website platform where you can buy our bottles and get it shipped to your door in 31 states. So I mean, it's great what we're doing, but at the same time, we're on our staff, at my operations meetings, we're always like, all right, we got to put some single barrels on reserve, or we got to pause this, or because we also do a ton of charity barrels, and so that's one thing I don't want to stop doing. So I at most we'll have to slow down on some of the private barrels, but yeah, I probably would have said, hey, get more whiskey. I mean, all of us probably would have said, get more.
Yeah.
It turned out really well, like we thought it would. Just a couple base questions, because for some of the people watching the show, what type of still do you guys run?
We actually just got a brand new one, a whole new system made to kind of help with the increase in productivity. It's a 240 gallon. We have copper onion, runs into a big copper condenser. And we decided, you probably would think, oh, why don't you have like 1,000-gallon still? Colorado's got some weird, because we're a dry state, we have a lot of weird fire codes. And so if I would have went above 250, it just would have been a big hassle for our H status in the new building code. So what we're going to do is just start with this one, and we might add a second one.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like a combined thing. It's like individual vessels. So we might just add, another still.
Yeah. We always like weird intricacy laws that happen like that make you do something different. Or it's like, why would you do that? And you're like, all of a sudden you hear about it, you're like, okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah, and
it is usually a weird law.
It is. I mean, and also when you think about most, not all, but most of the distilleries in Colorado, we're all in that most category. We're in like a city center. We're like, Stranahan's and myself and most of the Denver ones, most of the big city ones. We're not like in Kentucky where we're on a farm. We're in the middle of an industrial complex, or we're in the middle of we're close to residential complexes. So they're very strict on those fire codes because, if something happens with us, there's a lot of neighboring businesses or communities that they're concerned about. So it's not so much, oh, you're sitting on 100 acres, you're good, you'll just lose all your stuff. No, there's tons of people around us that they're more concerned about than us.
So with everything that you guys have been laying down, because you've done some sourcing, but you're also laying stuff down. What's been your favorite that you've produced, whether it be something you're laying down or something that you guys have sourced?
It's probably my favorite that we're laying down right now, and I say favorite because it's super unique and it's really good. We haven't even released it yet; it's still aging. We do a rum, and it's very agricole based, but then we age our rum in Hungarian oak barrels, so we don't do spice rum. It's aged rum in Hungarian oak barrels that we import fresh barrels. They're made for us, and so that's super cool. Some of the first couple batches they're getting close to 2 years, so we'll try them and see if they're ready. I think that's the most exciting thing, only because it's different. Like the whiskey is kind of just our twist on whiskey, right? It's not vastly different. And then of course with sourcing, my favorite thing we do is just the blends. It's not, the specific single barrels. And I always tell people too, I consider us like a hybrid distillery. We started sourcing. We make our own stuff now. That's still aging because I don't like young whiskey. But even when that gets to the point, we'll just basically add another page to the portfolio. So I'm not going to do like the bait and switch. We're like, I'm pulling all the sourcing and here's the Copper Sky. It's the same thing. No, we'll keep doing sourcing because I gave you that product. We've obviously won a bunch of awards. We're really good at blending, but I'm going to introduce another line under Copper Sky that's our purely distilled product. So not going to distill and mix, and then I'm not going to switch one for the other. We'll just have 2 pages in the Copper Sky portfolio.
That's cool. So are you doing any collaborations with Colorado breweries?
We do. Yeah, we give them barrels. I don't really ask for them to put Copper Sky anything. There's a couple breweries that have used our barrels. Matter of fact, we've done collaborations with breweries, a Colorado cidery, and another distillery. And the cidery took our bourbon. It's wild cider. They're like the number 1 or 2 cidery in Colorado. They took our bourbon and actually ran it through, and they did a Lady in Red cider. It was really freaking good. So that was like a legitimate collaboration because, it's a mixed product. And the same with the distillery. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, we're going to put our names on things. Art of the Spirits Distillery, Richard's a good friend of mine. He's out of Colorado Springs. We took his bourbon, so a 21 rye bourbon and a 95 rye whiskey. We blended those together. So we took each of our products, blended them, and then we finish it in a Sauvignon Blanc barrel. And then we released it. So again, true collaboration, not just a partnership.
Yeah, nice.
Interesting barrel. Nice. I'm intrigued. I'm just saying
I think there's some sitting around the distillery somewhere.
Interesting.
I'm curious what the Hungarian oak will do with the rum.
Well, the color is already gorgeous, but it gives it. I almost like to say it gives the rum like a bourbon-esque finish. It's because we use panela sugar, which I said, we're really agricole on the rum. We don't do molasses. We don't do coloring. It's just straight up sugar and yeast. So that Hungarian oak gives it a lot of flavors. It's super cool.
Nice.
I like that one.
Do you have a target for how long, or are you just going to go completely by taste?
I do. I don't like putting dates on it. I like the barrel tells me when it's ready. Too many people put themselves in corners and be like, all right, it's going to be done in a year or 2 years, and it's not. But they release it because they're bound by that, or people are, asking for it. I don't like boxing ourselves in that way. It gives us a lot more creative freedom to just say, hey, it'll tell me when it's ready. It's ready when it's ready. Like then I'm giving you a good product too. I'm not just pushing something on you.
And that's actually a lot of distilleries. One of their first kind of gaffes. That's understandable. In a lot of cases, maybe you need to start getting something out there and stuff. But being able to wait to something that you think hits the standard is important. So kudos on that. And you like blend. You're saying you like blends. So you finishing it in a Blanton's barrel was clearly intentional, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yep. 100%. Because the light whiskey to me already gives that butterscotchy Werther's note, super smooth. And so we thought it'd be fun to throw it in like a Blanton's barrel, which already has those soft caramel notes, kind of glazed baking spices, almost like when you saute stuff in a saucepan. And so I thought that'd be just a fun collaboration. And then of course, whoever has Mike, you got the bottle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see we didn't release it to stores, but we threw a fun little jab because like there's some little things in the signs like y'all got any Blantons because like everybody's there's some fun stuff in there.
I've got a file of Tater Stickers that have been my favorites, and that's I do like that one. It's gonna get peeled off the bottle.
I can send you some stickers.
There's been some of them, and I admit there's a local group here. I bought some strictly because of the sticker, because one of them had Randy Marsh from South Park on it, and I'm like, all right, I got it. I'm sorry, I have to buy this bottle specifically for that. But so I've fallen victim to the Tater Stickers too.
I've done the same thing. I mean, even we're sitting in my whiskey room in my house, and I've got just shit that's unnecessary, but I think it's fun. And I also think it's fun to share it. Like everything in this room is open, from, vintage pappies all the way down to just whatever. It's all open because it's the community of whiskey that I love. And so I have a lot more opportunities to buy random things than some of my friends. So I like to get them and have them. So when they come over, they're like, hey, I've never had that. I'm like, all right, open it. You be the guy to open it. Like, this is, it's meant to be drank.
Yeah. Agreed.
It's awesome when you see like the lights click on something that they love.
Yeah.
That's like the best part. My one friend had that with mywhiskeydenkc, and it was my other friend's bottle. And all of a sudden, I looked over and he was just pouring away, and I was like, "Dude, you had better slow down." And it's mainly only because you couldn't get it in Green Bay at that time. You had to travel to like Madison or Milwaukee or Chicago, and I was like, "It's not that it's $70, $80, $100. It's that it's like 4 hours away." I'm like, "It's a trip. Like it's a road trip."
Yeah, and that's especially out here in Colorado. There's a lot of East Coast things that I love that it's hard to get. Like I'm a huge Booker's fan, so going all the way around my ceiling here, I've got the Booker's going all the way back to like the OG batches. But I love sharing them, and it's hard to get, and it's fun to be able to have friends over who are traveling. Like I've never seen that, and it's like it's open. Drink it, man. Yeah. It's not a collector's piece. I don't expect that to be there in a year. We're just gone.
Yeah, that's one thing with whiskey, and I think too many people get lost on it. But whiskey is worth a lot more when it's shared with somebody than it is sitting on a shelf.
Absolutely,
because it's 100% speculation that you're going to make money when you could have a lot more fun sharing it with other people.
For sure. I've forged some more lifelong deep friendships sharing and sipping whiskey than. It's sitting there and me telling a cool story about how I bought it, but it's dusty. We've never opened it. Cool story, bro. Crack that and drink that. Yeah, it's
like teasing your friends every time they come over. It's okay. Look at this.
I'd stop going to houses that are like that. I don't like going to those people's houses.
No.
So, since you've been working on stuff, is there a type of whiskey that you want to do or are as kind of like a goal that you want to do? I was gonna say, or haven't been able to do. Sorry. Yep,
I've been trying to get Mizunara cast for a long time, but those things are freaking expensive.
Yeah, that's either they are tough to get by, but yeah, expensive as heck.
They're real expensive and they're hard to get. But I think it'd be fun for us to do something because I know how good our blends are, and I like finished whiskey, and I think there's a lot of people doing it right. I think there's a lot of people that still have a ways to go. I think we're really good at finishing whiskey in different barrels because I'd like to say like we nurture the barrel. I don't put it in there and say, all right, in 6 months or in 8 months or a year, we're going to pull this. After usually month 2 or 3 on everything, we sample it every 2 weeks. So again, some might be shorter, some might be longer, but we always let the barrel tell us when it's ready. So we don't put arbitrary time frames on stuff. And I think that's the biggest difference is some distilleries are like, hey, we're only going to, it's going to sit for a month, or hey, it's going to sit for a year. And it's a cycle versus, trying to nurture that barrel because it's very time consuming when you have a lot of projects going on to try to nurture all the barrels. But to me, it's worth it. I mean, it's just like, I don't know, it's just like any relationship in life.
Well, when you mentioned it earlier, it seemed like you were interested in creating like legacy, but and what we love, like legacy at a pure level, like built on what you're talking about, like quality the whole time through and handing that down. I think you have a wonderful basis and outlook for doing that. And I was going to say, and just from the blending side, I have had 1 or 2 other things, and you guys do a wonderful job at that. We need to plan a trip to Texas and to Colorado next year. I think things are in the works.
Yeah. So is there a funky or unique wood that Colorado has that you want to try to do something with barrels?
Not really. Sorry, I just saw Shannon's on there. Hey, Shannon, she's a good friend too. She's been to the distillery. She was a judge at one of the competitions we had at our distillery. So, hey, Shannon.
Oh, nice.
No, the wood that's really popular in Colorado is aspen, and I love it as a tree. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's really cool ecosystem. I personally don't think it mixes well with whiskey. It's a very harsh, tanniny wood, and not in a good way. Like when you think of tannins, like with wines and stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's really not a Colorado specific. I think the 2 Colorado things that make us unique are the climate, because we're at altitude, we're dry, not a lot of humidity, and then also the Rocky Mountain water. Tennessee, Kentucky, the limestone water, this and that. Great, yeah, it's really unique. It's good, but we have pure Rocky Mountain water that comes off the mountains that is just insanely amazing. Like our water here in Longmont, you drink it right out of the tap, and it's more pure than some of the bottled water you get. And so we have a very pure, clean source of water that kind of helps us throughout that process, whether it's the distillation process or the proofing process.
So with the whiskey that you are making, what kind of proof are you guys going into the barrel with?
If we're kind of doing a couple. So the bourbon's obviously the 125. We're doing light whiskey as well, so that's a lot higher. And then the rum, I think I can't remember, so I don't want to misspeak, but the rum's fairly high so that we can let it have fun in the barrel and then proof it down after. And of course, we're doing some crazy projects. Like Isaac, he's my master blender, master distiller. He loves the science, and I basically let him loose as long as I always tell him, as long as nobody's getting hurt or we're not burning the place down, have fun. And so he's got some crazy experiments. And these are pure experiments we don't plan to release. It's really for data collection. But he's doing some crazy like pre-proofing experiments, pre-blending experiments, like all kind of crazy stuff. So in a few years we can see like what does whiskey do when you put it in at extremely low proof, and that's not to release, but that's to use as a blending agent to bring down the proof versus using water to bring down the proof. So there's some interesting things we're just trying just to say, hey, all right, we understand this process now.
So just with the altitude and stuff and how that may affect things and different processes, that could be neat too. Yeah, I love people that are doing science like that.
So are you making your favorite Copper Sky whiskey yet, or is that to be determined?
Purely Copper Sky, i.e. grain to bottle, not yet. We're still determining that. Copper Sky in terms of what I call hyper blends, which we take a lot of different things and it's really our own. We definitely are. The Copper Accord, which is our annual release, it's a hyper blend of projects we've done throughout the year. We're doing that. Last year was the first official Copper Accord, but it was the second trial. The first year we did it, we just called it the Blender's Choice. And it was a leftover of a bunch of different whiskeys we had. And Isaac blended it. We threw it together, 100 bottles, called it the Blender's Choice. It sold out really quick. Got a ton of feedback. And so we were like, let's formalize this. So we called it the Copper Accord. It's just a play on words, obviously copper. But then the accord, especially in music, is like the mending, the melding of different notes, of different things. Like so in the whiskey, we're putting together a bunch of different things. So last year, I think it's got 7 different batches in one blend of last year. We submitted it to one, I think to the Denver International Spirits Competition. Just like, hey, it's our hometown. It's big, but we'll just send it. It won Best Whiskey, and it was the top 3 spirit. So we were like, oh, shit. But my favorite because so it's always going to be called the Copper Accord, but every batch is going to have a different name. So last year's batch was the Orchard because it had a little bit of the apple brandy finish whiskey that we did. And, oh, my God, that tastes like a daggone green Jolly Rancher. It is like covered in caramel. It is amazing. That was one where I've got 6 bottles hidden in my closet because I'm like, usually the ones I keep like those are drinkers. They're not like, oh, I'm going to give this as a gift or no. Those are I'm drinking. And so this year's Copper Accord, we've already started working on it. Obviously, we don't have a name or anything, but it's going to be interesting. I think our mindset going in is not to try to match it or beat it. It's just to try to make another banger.
So do you guys do any releases with smaller? Sorry, Pat. Do any releases with smaller bottles to? Well, I don't want to say to stretch it out, but just so people can go in at a lower point and buy, a wider range of your stuff.
We are looking into starting to do like the little shooters for some of our main products, just so it's more readily available for people to try at stores. We've only ever done 1 375. And it was just over a year ago, our very first honey bourbon. And we tried to stretch it out, but then we just went back to 750s, really just for branding. It wasn't like we were disappointed.
Yeah. Are you okay, Pat?
You must have threw that back.
No, I'm good. I'm in the room, my room out back, and if it starts to rain, which it just did a little bit ago, it starts to make a lot more noise than I thought. So every now and then I just mute myself because I was not expecting that at this moment. Otherwise, I'd be in a different room.
I thought the proof was getting to you for a second there.
No, not really. In a good way, I have a kind of a little smile on right now all the time.
That's your flu shot. You don't need anything else. Just
that's right.
Just need to keep getting boosters. That's all.
These will work for that. This light whiskey is really nice. I've been nosing it and sipping it for a while, and I like light whiskey because I think it's fun, but it reminds me of barrel aged vodka or a Starka, which I do. I like that quite a bit. Not necessarily a vodka person, but this is really nice. The only other light whiskey I have on hand is a very obscene one from Obtainium.
Oh, I love Gene. Gene and I are really good friends.
Yeah, no, Gene's cool. I got this one. It's like 100. Well, no, it's 70, like 77%.
Yeah,
it's just, but it's great. I mean, it's great.
He is a good friend, and there's been a few times where because he and I, and then of course Mattingly, and then Bull Run are the 4 who've really kind of put a flag into light whiskey. And so Gene and I are a little bit smaller when we first started. And so he and I were like, he was helping me get barrels, and then he needed some, and I'd send him barrels. So Gene has become not only a good friend, which is what this community is about, but we've got the opportunity to help each other. I keep joking and telling him we need to do some collaboration, like an interstate collaboration.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Mhm.
Gene is a good dude, and he's putting out some really cool stuff.
Yeah, he seems to have the knack for finding things.
He
It's like
does.
a mole.
He definitely does. He's got. This is an industry that's a very small community, so you can either make really good friends or you can really isolate yourself. And he's done a great job at not only making good friends, but sharing those, like, again, with me. And he's not just like, oh, I know everybody, I got these things.
Yeah.
Like, he'll text me and be like, hey, I'm getting this, do you want a couple? So he's helped me get like some really old charity barrels that we've done. But yeah, it's not often. I mean, most of us have a shit ton of whiskey, right? I mean, there's almost 1,000 bottles in here, but I don't know everybody. It's rare that there's distillery owner friends that you're like, dude, I've got just as much of your whiskey as I do my whiskey.
Yeah. All right. I am going to be respectful, or well, both of us do want to be respectful, because the Broncos are playing. For anyone who's not watching this live,
I don't know if all gave it away.
Well, it is important, and we're in a fantasy group with it's all whiskey people, and there's like 4 distillers that are in it, so the shit talking is real. And I'm matched up against my son this week, who's also in the group, and I'm completely destroying him right now.
Dude,
and it's awesome.
It's fun to see some of these comments on the side, like Shannon said, "Where's this closet?"
I didn't think you wanted to give away that information. That's just
no secret.
Yeah, she'll try to talk her way in there. All right.
So, but we do want to thank you for coming on and this lovely, lovely bottle. Mike and I will do a review of it, but I mean, it is dangerously good. It pulls just enough of the qualities from the Blanton's barrel, but the light whiskey and the honeycomb, and leaving with it the bit of honey flavor, man, just on the inside. Just, yeah, that's a problem, in the best way possible. Excuse me.
You're the first person I've heard that said they get honey off of this one. Most people go to the, like, if not butterscotch, like I don't know the right word, but like when you're melting caramel in a saucepan to cook with.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah,
like that, or baking spices, vanilla. I've never heard someone say honey on that one. That's really unique.
I get those, but like I was saying, that like that's a little bit in the back. It just like tasted like a bit of honey, like the candy, and it has some of that other stuff. But that was like the big note that I was like, okay, that was surprising, and I really love it. So that's
Nobody thinks it's 138 when I tell them so.
No,
it doesn't.
Given you whiskeys that are either cast strength or really high proof, but they're blended or finished so well that you still can sip on it and you don't feel like you're going to blow your palate out.
But yeah, so if you're out, this is just another great example of a wonderful reason to stop out in Colorado, because the multitude of things you're doing along, we usually say that, craft whiskey is king, but we appreciate every step in the path, because there are people we've talked to, like Gene, who do just, blending and working on that side of things, and then people who are just distillers. But you have taken it kind of along the whole path, and a lot of the things you're doing when you're releasing them are really, really good. And, we want to say thank you for someone who pays attention to that along the way, because a lot of people might be good at one thing, but it's hard to be good at almost all the steps along the way.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad y'all like it.
Yeah, no, we do. All right. Well, it's halftime. You probably have some celebration to get to.
We can keep chatting while it's halftime.
All right. Because they're ahead, so that's good.
What are they?
Well, you didn't tell me that. You could have put that on.
You figure he's getting some updates.
What is it, like 13?
No, they're not. Never mind. It's flipped. I have my score flipped.
Son of a bitch.
Damn it, Mike. I'm sorry. Now that you're both Mike, I didn't mean to click.
I want the Seahawks to lose so bad. I really do. I can't. I really want them to lose. Anyway, they will. So,
All right, let me spin this
All
one. All right, well, if we got a couple more minutes, then I'm gonna pour one more.
You go ahead. I keep nosing on this, and I got like the I get what you're saying, Bat, with that bit of honey. I was getting the hard candy, but I was getting more like if you ever walked into some place that's making old candy, that's because with all the cooking and stuff, I got that off of the nose first. But then I was getting buttered popcorn and a little orange and like baseball glove leather on the nose. And I really like it. And then I was expecting, because it's light whiskey, so I was expecting the vanilla, but I didn't get the vanilla until I was tasting it. And then it was like, okay, I'm getting this, I'm getting, hot buttered caramel corn and all these other things. And then it was just like vanilla. And it just kind of hit. It was great.
Oh. So go ahead. Sorry.
John had a good question. If you can say where you get your mezcal barrels from.
I actually don't know. So some of the stuff we get that's pretty one-off. When they send us the barrels, they usually spray paint out all the codes because they know, like, I can figure the codes out. So the person who's selling the barrels doesn't want to give up their source. So by the time we get them, so even some of the Scotch barrels, it's all painted out. So I honestly don't know.
Okay.
The only ones that don't do that, when we get wine barrels in, they leave all the wine information on. I don't think the wineries care. But
they're probably more proud of it.
Yeah. Scotch definitely, blacks out their barrels. And then the tequila barrels, they'll black out their barrels.
I like that you went to Mezcal right away with that, because just the smokiness that you get off of it, it adds just that extra little torque to what's going on.
And we've done one. We've only done one, and Shannon might have had it, but it only went to Texas. We did a Mezcal finished bourbon, and it went to Skip's Liquor out in Texas. So we've had one barrel of Mezcal before.
What's your favorite thing to finish in? It sounds like you've played with a few different barrels. So what's one you enjoy using?
I think the two that I have most enjoyed has been the apple brandy, because it was really just fun. It tastes good. But then I think consistently across the board, even outside of our whiskeys, I love Madeira finished stuff.
That's fair. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of like reds, like tawnies, cherries, like the port stuff, only because I think that goes very well with scotches. I don't think it goes well with bourbons, because with the high corn mash, it's just a weird.
We've seen it more with malts in America that we've liked it, I think, rather than
definitely
bourbons.
Much better with malted grain than like just a corn.
Have you found a finish, whether it be wine or whatever other spirit that you think doesn't work because you're doing it in Colorado?
I haven't. We haven't personally seen that. There's some stuff that I've tasted that some other people have done that I don't think it had anything to do with Colorado. I think it was just the mash and barrel blend didn't really end up what they thought it would be.
Okay. I was just curious with that, just with the environment there, if it just didn't lend itself well to certain wines or certain other finishes that was just like it, didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't like the reds. I think Madeira might be the exception.
We've had a couple other people on like a rare occasion, and I don't think you would have done it, but they used the white port. And do you, by chance, have ever dabbled with that?
No, the only white we've done is that Sauvignon Blanc finish.
I didn't get excited about that. I like flavored or finished and flavored stuff. But I was going to say, once you start having that a lot, sometimes I almost work backwards in my head where I want to find the base that was exceptional to begin with, rather than off of all the finishes that happen, just because there are too many places that use that to cover up mistakes sometimes.
100% agree, which is why when we do finishes, it's always whiskey first. It's always whiskey forward. No matter what we do, it's not going to be overpowering or overwhelmingly whatever that barrel was. You're going to get smacked with the whiskey, and then you'll taste that finish in the middle, and then it'll finish again with whiskey, because we're not trying to cover anything up. We're trying to do some compliments. I think that's another thing that makes our finishes vastly different. Is most of our base whiskeys are still 5 years old or older. I'm not trying to cover anything up, so I'm still giving you whiskey first, but it's just complemented by something else on the side.
Yeah, excuse me, it's really tasty. So,
with your businesses, because you said you've got businesses down south too, have you, when you go down there, do you ever talk with any other distillers and get to thinking about maybe collaboration with someone, like sending some of your whiskey down to age at somebody else's location? Or
I haven't explored that yet. I'm pretty particular, so if I did, it would probably be to the East Coast. It wouldn't be like, not a knock on Texas. I just don't. That's not the climate that I like.
mm-hmm.
It'd be cool to maybe do something with Kentucky, just because like the heritage there. But I haven't really explored that. I don't think have the volume yet to be able to send a bunch of barrels.
Well, that's it with half of the distilleries there. It's not a small collaboration. On their mind it is, but on a lot of them it's, they want a decent chunk of what you've made.
yeah,
unless you're working with other craft distillers. So, but
yeah, there's a few small ones, but probably not enough to do that in Kentucky.
Yeah, there's a couple. Like, have y'all heard of Three Boys Farm? That's where Good Times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Nick and I are friends. So I mean, there's opportunities there, but I mean, it's just we haven't really talked about it.
Yeah. When we were there, they pulled us back aside. We were talking to Hunter, and all of a sudden it was like a secondary tour. It was pretty sweet.
Hunter's fun. That's a cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a cool little setup there, and like they got the 3 different brands.
Yeah. That's pretty. That was one of my highlights of going there. The facility was cool and it was kind of in transition because it just sold it and everything, but mostly because of Hunter, and then also the experience of bottling your own was pretty sweet.
Yeah, they got a cool setup. But I like Nick a lot, man. Yeah. He was at somebody. I just saw him comment on. We had some guys at the distillery the other day, and they posted about being at Copper Sky, and Nick replied like, "Hey, I need to get to Colorado." So yeah, that's the cool thing about this community. Again, I'm friends with other owners around the states. It's not just Colorado. It's all over.
Yeah, they do some great blends too.
Oh yeah, that's what they lean into is blends and finishes. But I've been to Kentucky, like random business trips. Like I fly in and out, and of course I have my Copper Sky stuff on. And so like one day I was trying to kill time. I walked into Angel's Envy. It's okay, you got any tours? Like, oh, we're booked up for the day. And the lady saw my shirt and she's like, oh, what is this? And I usually just kind of keep it to myself. But someone else was with me and they were like, oh, he owns this. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And she was like, oh, and I was like, yeah, it's Copper Shop, blah, blah, blah. And so they kind of snuck us in, let us do some stuff. So even like at the, the basic tour level, people try to take care of you.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. Well, I'm starting to get really excited off this. I know the game's coming up. I'm sorry. I'm starting to get a permagrin. The day was a little iffy. I'm feeling much better right now. So
starting to get real excited.
But I really want you to be able, because I know you have friends downstairs. So we don't want to hold you up anymore. We want you to get back to life, because that is what is important, and enjoying things. But we appreciate what you're doing, and all the love and care you're doing along the way, because it really shows in what you're putting out. So
I appreciate that. It means a lot.
So thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. For those of you who are in Colorado, jump on it. And you mentioned coming up, you're going to be in 31 states online.
Yeah, I think next week, if you follow our social media, next week we'll be dropping the link to our website. which will have the new buy now button, which will be able to send whiskey straight to your door in 31 states.
That is
Nice.
fantastic. And we were happy that's going out, because that was one of the things I don't want to say we're lobbying for, but we're pushing for a lot of places, just to be able to get that extra step to get your notoriety out. It's good to hear about something, but we still know there's mules out there, and 31 states isn't all of them, but that means that there's probably a friend of yours in a state that can get it. And mules exist for a reason.
That's
So,
right.
That's right. We love mules.
That's right.
So thank you, Mike. We really appreciate you coming on the show. Cheers. You guys have a good evening. Remember, it's not the size of the den that matters. It's the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
What?